So when CJ Gardner-Johnson posted on Instagram yesterday that he'd be back, we had a feeling that he was going to be out for a couple of weeks. Well, the injury news made official this morning, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. CJ Gardner-Johnson will miss time with an injury that sounds absolutely brutal, a lacerated kidney. Now, we have seen this before. We're going to unpack all of this here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Chase Senior, and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. So Pelissero had reported this early this morning that CJ Gardner-Johnson out indefinitely. I would imagine we're going to see an IR stint here. Suffered a lacerated kidney in that Sunday night win over the Green Bay Packers. It looked as though at the time when he got carted off the field, he was in so much pain, and obviously this injury very painful. The good news here, non-surgical testing is ongoing, so timetable still to be determined, but it is not expected to be season ending. And as I just alluded to, we've seen some of these injuries happen before, both with the Philadelphia Eagles and elsewhere across the NFL. If you remember back a couple of years ago, former Eagles tight end, as Jeff McLean of the Philadelphia Inquirer pointed out, did suffer a similar injury in December of 2019. He did miss the season finale, then was back the following week in the first round of the playoffs, even though some had advised against him coming back. And even when he was playing, it looked as though he was in a lot of pain. So different circumstances, obviously, with CD Deuce, but some context there. And then other examples across the NFL, if you're looking at a timetable for when CJ Gardner-Johnson could come back, this is a complicated injury. Obviously, when you get into those body parts inside your body, there can be complications. There was with Keenan Allen when he missed 8 games back in 2015, and with Andrew Luck, who missed 9 games back a couple of years ago as well. And for Andrew Luck, there were complications. He was only supposed to be out 1, 2, 3 weeks. He ended up missing the final 9 games of the season back several years ago. The difference here with CJ Gardner-Johnson and for the Birds, he can afford to miss time because of how the Philadelphia Eagles have performed this year with an NFL best record at 10-1. And as we enter the home stretch here, it's critical. It's paramount to get him healthy, Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox, Jordan Davis healthy to be ready for the playoffs. And because the Eagles are not fighting for their playoff lives, CJ Gardner-Johnson has some wiggle room here to come back in good shape, coming off this injury to really enter the fold whenever he wants to and doesn't need to rush back. Now, we're going to take a look at the NFC playoff picture to see where the Eagles are. Of course, we're going to continue to talk about Malcolm Jenkins here because he told John Clark, as we talked about yesterday, we are ahead of it before anybody, that he still could play in the NFL. But first, a reminder to subscribe to the channel. When big news happens, we cover it. We were also ahead of this Malcolm Jenkins conversation yesterday. And now today, everybody's talking about it, both on the airwaves, on TV, and here on YouTube. So make sure you lock us in and subscribe to the best, most informative, and entertaining Eagles channel out there with videos coming your way on the daily basis year-round. It's Philadelphia Eagles Now, and I'm bringing you the news as a guy who grew up in the Philly area. So the NFC playoff picture looks as such. Philadelphia Eagles still with a 2-game lead over the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, there is a 1-game difference, 10-1 to 9-2, but they do own that tiebreaker. The San Francisco 49ers have won 4 games in a row. They are atop the NFC West in there in that 3rd spot, even though the Buccaneers lost this past weekend to the Cleveland Browns in overtime. 4th seed in the NFC at 5-6. Then the remaining teams, Dallas Cowboys playing really well. 5th seed at 8-3. New York Giants, even though they lost to the Cowboys, still in the playoff picture at 7-4. The Washington Commanders now enter the playoff fold because the Seattle Seahawks have dropped out after 2 consecutive losses, and there you see the other teams in the mix. But I think that really it's going to be those 7 teams and the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Atlanta Falcons will fall off over time. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles will miss CJ Gardner-Johnson a lot. This guy has been exceptional since getting traded to Philadelphia from the New Orleans Saints right before the start of the 2022 NFL season. 50 solo tackles this year, an NFL high, 6 interceptions, 4 tackles for loss, and 8 pass breakups. His play on the field has been very steady for a guy who didn't play a lot of safety coming into this year. He was primarily a nickel cornerback who did have some safety reps with the New Orleans Saints, but making timely plays, bringing a level of swagger, gusto, and confidence to this Eagles defense. They will miss that. And what's funny is that if you look at his Pro Football Focus numbers, this is why you can't always trust analytics. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 63. That's 7 points below league average at 70. Against the run, 56.5. Pass rush, 66.7. But he's not a guy like Malcolm Jenkins who plays a lot in the box, and a coverage grade of 63.3. But his instincts allows him to really make some game-altering plays, as we've seen time and time again this year. And the timeliness nature of him making those game-changing plays is going to be missed by this Eagles defense. Now, we're going to talk about Reed Blankenship coming up here in just a second, but first, I do want to gauge where the fan base is at here. Are you worried about the defense now? They give up a lot of points, 30-plus points to the Green Bay Packers, although I think a lot of that was because the Packers took over in advantageous field position spots, and that Reed Blankenship bad angle on Christian Watson made that game a little bit more interesting than it should have been. But give me a why for yes, I'm concerned, and for no. Want your feedback down below in the comment section. The Eagles safety depth chart. It looks like this, and this is a position group that's probably the thinnest on this Eagles roster. Howie Roseman has done a great job of stacking this roster at many positions with a lot of depth. Here at that safety position, this is why we're talking about Malcolm Jenkins, because there isn't a lot of depth. Your starting safeties are going to be Marcus Epps at free safety, Reed Blankenship at strong safety. I do like what I saw from Reed Blankenship against the Packers because he can really play all across the field. Kayvon Wallace and Andre Chachere, the backup safeties here on this Eagles depth chart. But beyond that, if another injury happens, this is when it becomes realistic that maybe you make a call to Malcolm Jenkins. And Reed Blankenship, pretty cool story, played his college football at Middle Tennessee, cracked this roster as an undrafted free agent. I went back and watched the tape. This guy was making plays against the run. This guy is a good tackler. He was good in pass coverage as well, outside of taking that bad angle on Christian Watson for that big pop play. Read the eyes and read the offense against Aaron Rodgers to come through with that lone interception. Also had a pass breakup, did play 35 snaps, so the experience there pretty valuable for him moving forward, and 6 tackles as well. Good special teams player at moments too. So Reed Blankenship is most likely going to start at safety with CJ Gardner-Johnson out. And again, if another injury happens there, that definitely is going to be a big concern. Coming up next on the show, Malcolm Jenkins, we talked about him yesterday, as I talked about. He told John Clark in that same podcast that we did discuss on yesterday's show that he can still play. And now everybody on Twitter is saying, Howie Roseman, he should make a call to Malcolm Jenkins to see if he will join this roster. We'll unpack that and get to that coming up down the road. But first, take a look at these Week 13 betting odds here. As the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field will play host to the Tennessee Titans. I think up to this point in the Eagles' schedule, this will be the most difficult matchup for this Eagles offense going up against any defense in the NFL on the schedule up to this point. Tennessee Titans are really good, and they're coming off a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. 5.5-point line is way too big for me. I think this could be a 3-4 point game, and the over-under set at 44.5. We love talking betting here on the show, and if you want to sign up with our sportsbook partner, they're offering a great deal. That is BetUS, a 125% deposit bonus. You put in $100 by using that link, chatsports.com/EaglesBet, and that promo code right here of Eagles125, you get an additional $125 back. Simple math, $225 to game with this NFL season. Bet on the birds throughout the NFL season with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Now let's get to the latest here on Malcolm Jenkins. He did retire in March after playing for 13 years in the NFL, was really good at Ohio State. That translated to the NFL level where he has and did win 2 Super Bowls, one with the Saints early in his career, then with the Birds in Super Bowl 52 back in the 2017 season, 6 years with the Eagles, 3 Pro Bowls during his time in Philadelphia with that aforementioned Super Bowl championship. And in that podcast that he did with John Clark of NBC Sports Philadelphia, he said, "John, I can still play." Here's that exact quote: "I can still play. I'm still in shape. I'm still working out. It's not far-fetched that I could return. I'm still in it. I do enjoy my seat watching as a fan, but I could come in for a stretch." Well, here we are at the end of November. It's November 29th as of today's show. December coming up right around the corner. The Philadelphia Eagles right now are 10-1, 11 games down, 6 games left to play. If they continue to struggle on that back end, or if another injury happens, one of the moves that might make sense is to sign Malcolm Jenkins, an all-time Philadelphia Eagles great. We saw this last year with Eric Weddle. The Rams had suffered some injuries in that secondary, and they called up Eric Weddle for that playoff run. They signed him to the practice squad. They elevated him to the active roster, and he actually played a lot. He led the Rams in tackles in the NFC Championship game victory against the San Francisco 49ers. So it's not far-fetched. His Eagles stats over those 6 seasons: never missed a game, played pretty much every single snap, including special teams as well. Maybe Malcolm Jenkins could offer some help to a special teams unit that's been in the basement of the NFL so far this year. Nick Sirianni saying yesterday, we have to get it corrected, and they need to, because that can realistically lose you a playoff game. 96 games played over those 6 seasons, 11 interceptions, 58 pass breakups, playing safety in the slot, in the box, against the pass, against the run, 32 tackles for loss, and 406 solo tackles. I would not rule this out. Let me say that again. I would not rule out Howie Roseman making a call to Malcolm Jenkins and saying, "You're an all-time Philadelphia Eagles great. You played last year with the New Orleans Saints. If you wanted to extend your NFL career, you played well enough last year that you probably could have come back and returned for a 14th NFL season. And here you are. You admitted that you can still play. It's not far-fetched for you to return for a stretch run. You still have some gas left in the tank. You consider yourself a Philadelphia Eagle. You're one of the greatest players ever to don the midnight green. The Birds have an opportunity here to compete and win a Super Bowl championship. And if they suffer another injury at that safety spot, or if the back end struggles a little bit with Marcus Epps, as well as Reed Blankenship, in the absence of CJ Gardner-Johnson, do you want to join the Birds for a stretch run to have an opportunity to finish off your career by coming back and winning a 3rd NFL championship? Jenkins is still in pretty good shape. I thought he played pretty well last year. The instinctual knowledge that he has about the game of football, the leadership qualities that he brings to this locker room, I wouldn't rule it out. And the Eagles have proven that they're all in. They signed Linval Joseph. They signed Ndamukong Suh. Is Malcolm Jenkins next? We know Howie Roseman is really aggressive, and he has this way of pursuing players to come back like he did with Suh as well as Joseph. It would be a great story, and I wouldn't rule it out because we know how Howie Roseman does business. All right, so my question for you: should the Eagles sign Malcolm Jenkins? S for sign, W for he's washed. Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe and keep it locked for more Eagles news, rumors, analysis, and updates year-round.